Hello, Pat.
Mm. Hey, Rafa. I'm just having a little coffee
Enjoy
and
it.
so excited that we have grabbed this time again to like think tank together,
I
which
love
is what
it.
I see this space as being.
I love it. Yes, I love this. It's a Saturday morning, and I just thoroughly enjoy these conversations.
Me too.
And so, before we get into it, just to welcome you all to Talking Pedagogy with Pat and Rafa, where we talk about Reggio inspired practice pedagogy and everything in between. And yeah, I'm just so happy to be here with you this morning, Pat. We were talking about before we recorded, the topics to cover, and one thing that came up for you was the role of the Atelierista. And
Yes.
recently, we hosted someone who was curious about the Atelierista role, and so it's prime time for us to talk about this. So, what's coming up for you?
Well, I'm working with several different schools on creating for the first time, having a space that is designated as their atelier. And so that has been a very interesting thing to see how the Atelierista is going to be working. And it's different for every school, right? But like with First Pres, that we sometimes give a shout out to, where my wonderful friend Jennifer taught for many, many years. And it's a wonderful, wonderful school. They have visits where they have appointments, right, with different classrooms. And so throughout the week, the Atelierista, if I hope I'm getting this right. If not, please, First Pres, anyone from First Pres can write us and let us know. But you have appointments and then you also have studio time. So you're doing both in class work and studio time. So the ones that I'm working with now, the two schools who are just starting to embrace this, one is literally changing their gross motor room into, and they're not going to stop gross motor. They're actually going to keep the kids outside more. Shout out to that. But they are using this room as it's going to be just designated for, art and working with the art teacher. And they're also creating a resource room downstairs where there will be a community board for the teachers and the all the staff to be posting certain and responding to certain prompts. So that resource room, they don't know what they're going to call it yet, maybe the construction zone but constructing thinking, using pieces of loose materials to construct. So they're still coming up with the right name for that, but I found that very interesting. And some atelieristas have to share their room as the resource depository as well for all loose parts. So there's all different ways that you see space being used by the by the atelierista. But I find it fascinating just watching the process of how the artist is going to work if you're fortunate enough to have a designated role like that. So, anyway, I don't know. That's a bunch of thinking, and I haven't really thought enough about it. What I wanted to really share with you today about that, except to say that I'm watching the spaces being curated and things that are coming up for them as they're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, as hearing you speak, I can talk a little bit about the evolution of the Atelierista role at Mi Casita.
Yeah, please.
It's been interesting. So from the beginning, I knew Eva, the owner, knew that the Atelierista is really important. And Eva's a very gifted visual artist herself. She
Mhm.
doesn't call herself that, but shout out to Eva. She's an amazing visual artist.
I didn't know that, but I'm not
Oh,
surprised. She
well,
seems
yeah,
very highly creative.
she is. And so in many ways, she was the Atelierista informally. And what that meant in the beginning was, well, more context. I come from a very intellectual academic background. Yes, I also teach. I'm
Mhm.
not someone who historically has worked with his hands a lot. I do it a lot more now, actually, ever since I started teaching in a Reggio inspired way. It's really helped me reclaim a lot of my own humanity. And it makes me think of how little I had when I was a kid, actually. Like I had art class,
Me
but
too.
I didn't have like it integrated into the school day. And I see the impact down the line on myself in terms of just missed opportunities. I mean, I've lived a good life, but just it could have benefited from that. But when thinking about Eva's role, she would just see or think about things in the space that I would never have occurred in my solar
Mm.
system of thinking. Like
Mhm.
Like Eva would come in like that comet from outside of the universe and be like, "Look at this." And it goes on.
Oh,
So I'm trying to think of like there's just so many examples. I mean, even just knowing how materials work with each other, or I mean, I'm kind of
yes.
embarrassed to say this, but I didn't understand the difference between acrylic paint and tempera paint and like what the difference was and why one is just better for some things than the other, you know. So the Atelierista role in in that sense was really just basics. Oh, and get this, I still struggle with this. I cannot tell you very quickly what two colors mix and become other colors.
Me either.
Okay,
Me
well, thank
either.
you. I feel a little more seen. But when I talk with Eva, Eva's like, "How do you not know this?" Like, of course yellow. I mean, even right now, I'm like doubting myself. Yellow and blue is green.
No, I think yellow and blue is purple, isn't it?
Oh gosh. Wait. quick quick
Yeah,
Google
we
search.
need to I think, both of us, that's something that I mean, I have to say that when I was a teacher, I did learn a lot and I've forgotten a lot, but I never cared what it was because I would feel my way through it. I'm not one of those people who holds on to information in that particular way. I just know if had those things in front of me, I would know which colors to start moving around to get what I wanted. Do you know what I mean? But what I will say is it's interesting to hear your relationship with Eva and how she's supporting you becoming more of a visual person and heightening those awarenesses. And I will say that so many children don't have the rich experience of, let's go back to calling it the 100 languages, where they are given the opportunity to explore all of these types of materials, to understand their properties, test their boundaries, and then be able to create new things because they understand those things about those materials. So that's the whole point, right? Of the heartbeat, which is to me, the heartbeat is the Atelierista. She is the one, she, he, they, who are in charge of really helping teachers to understand how to layer in all of those experiences and how to create the expectations for each material so that you're not rushing, but you're giving children the time to really explore the properties of each material. And so that is something that I find so valuable.
It's so viable, and also confirming yellow and blue does make green.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I thought it was purple. What makes purple? Red and
A blue?
yes, red and blue. Red and blue.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, Rafa, thank you for teaching
Well,
me that or
but this is
reminding me of that.
it's just very interesting from like a bigger lens of like what we choose to teach and why. And
Yes.
why does it matter that I know or don't know makes green? I think it matters for children now and for me in that if I don't know how to make green, it really limits my ability to express myself. And if I limit my ability to express myself, then it's harder to be deep to connect deeper with my humanity over time. Like
Right.
that for me is what art is all
Mhm.
about. And so how can that not be an integral part of it, just as much as knowing your numbers, just as much as knowing your letters? Like
Thank you.
that's really like very specifically a big reason that the arts are so important. And the arts also mean so many different things, like the visual arts, the plastic arts. So I'm just come such an appreciation, and at the same time working with Eva and now working with our current Atelierista Nicole Costa, who's also an amazing visual artist herself. She was invited to Cannes last year.
Oh
She
my gosh, how
Google
wonderful.
her. She's an amazing documentarian. Follow her.
Oh, yes,
Shout
for
out to her.
sure.
I'm now offering ideas to teachers who are newer to this that are not necessarily the same things I've done in the past, but I can tell I'm taking things I've done in the past that I've learned from Eva, that I've learned from Nicole, and then offering to other teachers ideas. Now, not nearly to the depth still as Nicole and Eva, but it's just really cool for me and my own development. I feel like
Yes.
I've reclaimed a lot of my own connection to my deeper self because of that.
Mm,
So the Atelierista role it is multifaceted. It does depend on the stage of
absolutely.
the organization. I mean, right now, the Atelierista, Nicole is offering a lot of the initial ideas in terms of the integration of arts, but the goal, which is very explicit with the team, is we all need to learn over time so that we're coming up with more ideas ourselves, right? Creating that collective capacity to engage in the arts. And in that way, Mi Casita does not have its own atelier per se. We don't have that space, but the whole space is supposed to feel like an atelier
Mhm.
is the aim for us. So I'm just so grateful. I think it's such an important role. In this
It
case,
is.
we do have a person, but sometimes it can be a teacher who happens to be very strong at the visual arts as well. So there's just many ways it can look like, as you were referring to before, and is
Yeah.
indispensable, in my opinion, to any Reggio inspired or any early childhood program, regardless of philosophy.
Any early childhood program. I think that goes back to how if you can't be a really completely inspired or influenced Reggio curriculum approach, you can still take these some of these tenets and find ways to enrich whatever it is you're doing
Hmm.
by studying some of these tenets. And definitely that one, the 100 languages, and how can you bring more arts and more ways for children to express themselves into your space. For me, I have to say, has having a background in the arts and wishing that I had had more experience and exposure to the arts growing up in school, I never was in a place until I went to School of Fine Arts that had an art teacher. But then, even then, because I was in the dance track, I wasn't able to, take advantage of that. So just feeling always like I wanted it, but not having it, and then getting to work with young children and having that hands on time. I mean, I literally would find myself gravitating towards the easels, which I think we've spoken about before as being a very important thing for you to have in your classrooms. It allows so much for collaboration with young children standing next to each other, sharing their ideas. It's a very natural space for them to start doing that and to start collaborating artistically together. And I saw it happen with 3 and 4 year olds. It was magical. So, again, I think when we think about, even if you don't have an atelierista, what are some of the simple things that you can do? And that is, we want always to allow children to have some autonomy and some choice. So, thinking about your environment as the third teacher and going back to where are those art materials and supplies going to be located? Can children have easy access to those supplies? And have you layered it in so they know what the expectations are? Can they wash their brushes themselves? Because the easels are very close to the sink if you're able to do that. And if you're not, what other creative way can you have for children to have some of that independence and take ownership of the art materials? But all of those things are really important. And that is what oftentimes the atelierista will do with teachers, is to help them understand how to introduce in their day throughout their year these materials so that when projects are happening, the children have had some exposure and can use some of these materials in those ways to support the project work that's happening. It's just
Yeah, the
so
Atelierista is
important.
also a sense of space can help a lot with organizing the classroom in general. That's how our Atelierista is collaborating with our teachers right now, because it's not everyone has developed the skills, including myself, to very effectively address organization, and as it pertains to being accessible to children in the classroom that's also aesthetically pleasing. Something
Yes,
I'm still working on, and some people just have it as a much more developed skill. And so, but we can all grow. So I that's another, at the moment, really important part of the job of our Atelierista.
agreed, agreed. And I'm excited this year because I'm actually getting to be a thinking partner for 3 different artists, and I'm learning so much from them, but also helping to guide them in thinking about how to build those connections to the overall community. And also, as a thinking partner, how to make some of the choices of what you're bringing into your space, and then how you're communicating that to the overall community of what it is that your goals are and how you're going to reach those goals with them. So, yeah, being a thinking partner with artists is, like, for me, one of my greatest joys.
Yeah. And another thing that our Artillerista helps coordinate is the organization of our loose parts. We've come a
Yes.
a long way with this. And so, in a practical sense, one may not have an Artillerista, but saving like plastic bottles to then hold loose parts, start making
Mhm.
one's own library. And of course, if you're in New York City, you're more welcome to reach out to Mi Casita and see what we're doing. we're not necessarily the exemplar, but we are an example what to do. And yeah, it's just such a multifaceted job that is just provides so much richness to the program.
Yeah. And a shout out, I don't know if any of you were able to hear Randy Weingarten. She was talking about how much more is needed in education right now. Randy Weingarten, who is the president of the UFT and was on NPR. If you want to Google it or ask Amazon to play it for you, or I'm not Amazon, but Alexa played it for me yesterday, even though the show was over. Brian Lear was speaking with her, and she really got into how important what some of the tenets that Rafa and I are talking about that have become missing in our public schools, and the critical thinking and problem solving and the time for that. And I think that is really what the approach to having this Atelierista and these exposures to all these different materials and the collaboration that naturally happens in a Reggio Emilia framing brings children into those spaces to have those types of richer conversations and problem solving experiences. So if you didn't catch it, listen, I'm not going to speak much more about it, but except to say how important our public schools are and how much more is needed in giving all children these opportunities. That's what I would say.
Yeah. So the other thing I would just say about the Tellerista and the role is we had a community curriculum day last Saturday, and I collaborated with Nicole to figure out what is an art experience that we can do with the families to connect the pedagogy, like experience the pedagogy that we have at the school. And working with Nicole and with Eva, we came up with, and with the head teachers as well. So this is like a big conversation. We came up with the idea of having families uh, use loose parts to well, decorate is not the right word, but I guess it's the word that comes up for me now. Decorate the frame, but
Mm-hmm.
thinking of their child. Decorate's not the right word, because I want to say like intentionally put objects on the frame that remind you or connect to your child, and then with your child choose what they want to put inside of it. So it could be a photo, it could be like a leaf, it could be drawing
Mm.
that they would want to
Oh,
share with the rest of the class, and that's going to
wonderful.
stay in the costume. So now they're coming in, and we have this gallery, this beautiful gallery of really eccentrically framed
Oh,
images, and
I'm
the
going to run
school.
down and have to see that. That sounds
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful,
it,
Rafa.
it's gorgeous,
I
and also
love that
connecting.
idea.
Yeah, so I don't know, it might be the thing we do next year. I don't know, but I also like surprising families.
Right.
So
The framing reminds me of we had a designated frame in our classroom, and it was just we would kind of in conversation with the children talk about an art piece that somebody was working on in the classroom that should go up in the frame, and it was revolving, but it was just a way to kind of shine on a child that had done something that was excited about their art piece, because we did allow them to work in an ongoing way. So sometimes a piece could go on for quite a while, like for several weeks. A child might be working on a collage piece. And so having that frame in our classroom was just a way to shine light on the importance of a child's piece and their work. But I love what you just said. That is glorious.
it felt glorious.
I want to see pictures. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll have to send you pictures. I
Oh,
will.
I'll have to just run over there.
That too.
That too. Yeah. You're not that far from me. But all of these things, I love too that what you're pointing out is taking time to create real and celebrate beauty. And aesthetics is so much a part of this. And I think children respond. It's incredible. Adults, all people respond when they walk into a space that has been, I like to say, feng shuied, where there's a flow, where there's a feeling, where there is an energy that has been created that you feel it when you walk in and you can be comfortable. And so at this point in the year, I'm always trying to poke at teachers to say, where are you gravitating? And think about the why. Like, what is it in the environment? And oftentimes it has something to do with light or Yeah, all different kinds of things it can be, but be cognizant of it because the beauty that we're trying to create with all of this wonderful art and these different materials and the way that we're stepping into using them in the Reggio Emilia way, it's just it's indicative of this entire way of working. And so raising your awareness to how you feel when you walk into a room and the aesthetics and the beauty is really important.
Yeah, there's something to be said about vibes.
And Rafa looks like he's going to be vaping, everybody. So I just want to
Oh,
say that every time he holds his new mic up, I'm like, oh my goodness, I know that you don't vape. What
if
is that?
no,
But
no.
yes, the vibe. You're very cool looking today, Rafa. Anyway, I
Uh,
like your new mic. It's really nice.
yes, I have a new mic that is filters out my sound. It looks like a little square if you can't see it, and it has a light on it. And I'm holding it right to my mouth. So
So I'm
definitely
just
we do not support vaping.
no, we do not. But
So
but anyway, I feel like Rafa, we're at like 21 minutes here, and I'm thinking this has been a really great conversation for me to keep thinking about all of these pieces that go into that role of the Atelierista. And if you don't have one, how do you also designate perhaps somebody who has some of those skills and talents that is in your community and and elevate them to being a support?
exactly. And also considering who in your neighborhood or what organizations in your neighborhood are actually artists that might want to collaborate with you. So for example, we have a what do you call it? A pottery space nearby, and we've collaborated with them before we had a more formal atelierista, and that was always very helpful. I mean, even asking for tips of like, how do you work with clay? How would you introduce it? A resource I like to share also for anyone who wants to be an atelierista or just grow that part of themselves more is I think it's called The Language of Art.
Mm.
And there's a second edition now. Let me just Google this really quick to make sure it's true. But I really like this book because, well, first of all, I like books.
Mm. Yes, you do.
So if you don't really like books, then this might not be it. But the Language of Art book is really gives you step by step, for example, of like, oh, you want to use clay? Well, these are the things to consider. This tends to be the developmental order you might do it in. You want to do paint? How would you order? So it's pretty. It holds your hand in many ways, and it's called. Okay, so I found it. It's The Language of Art: Inquiry-Based Studio Practices in Early Childhood Settings. There is now a second edition. So, but the first edition might be less expensive to get. So, I have the
Oh,
first
how
edition.
wonderful. I wish I'd had that. That sounds like
Right?
a really great resource that all teachers should be aware of. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's a I shared it. I gave it to my Atelierista, and she's found it very useful because she doesn't have a formal background in education, so it's kind of a bridge of those two worlds.
Mhm.
And so it's been really informative. So I highly encourage you to check it out. Everybody who's listening.
Well, now that I realize I don't still remember what colors to mix to get other colors, I think I'm gonna run to get that book because I need to know that.
Well, that book probably won't tell you what colors to mix, but it will tell you what to do to figure that out.
That sounds good. I'll take that. I'll take that. No, it's going to be Thanksgiving soon, and one of the things that I do for Thanksgiving is all of my guests are invited to do an open-ended art project. It's just a fun thing to do, and some of the art that is left behind is just incredible. But it's just a way to get adults to play again. And I think that all of us need those invitations, right? So that we keep ourselves into that space of like exploring materials, exploring artistic thought and ideas and pondering. And we usually only have one person who won't participate. And it's because they don't have the interest, A, maybe, and I want to be, that's okay. Or they don't have the confidence because they haven't been given the opportunity to just be process and not product oriented.
Very interesting. Well, with that,
Yes,
let's start moving into just next steps,
let's
or
do.
just like a summary for you, Pat. what is coming up for you from this conversation? What are you looking to explore next, or would encourage others to explore next who want to delve deeper into this idea of the Atelierista?
I just like the resource that you shared. In summary, I would say we all have artistic abilities and creative sides to ourselves, and finding those resources to help give you the confidence and the background knowledge that maybe you didn't get growing up will make your work with children so much richer. So I invite you to really step into that yourselves. And if you're lucky enough to have an atelierista, enjoy learning from them. And that's about it. That's all I would say.
And yeah, and for me, this conversation reminded me of something I've learned more and more, which is to think less in what is the art project we're going to do, and more in what is the material we're going to explore and see what happens. So, and how, and for me at first, I had to be really simple. I'm like, we are just using blue tempera paint,
Right.
and and then I gave paper and brushes, and I noticed they were making different lines, and some made circles, which is where my inquiry went during that year. It's like 4 years ago. So anyway, that's what I encourage everyone to be, to keep it simple and focus more on the material you might want to explore, and less so on what you're going to do or make, what the product, going
Yes.
back to the emphasizing process over product. That'll be my big takeaway. And yes, I encourage you to get the book from the library or online somewhere, and for benefiting your local booksellers if you can. And yeah, that's where I'm landing at right now. And that's great. This was a pretty focused episode, considering how sometimes we really go into tangents.
Yeah, I went on a few. But,
What makes it great? What makes it interesting?
well, I think that this was a great place for me to be today as I'm continuing my work as a coach with connecting the dots in early childhood education, to really keep thinking about how to support the atelieristas and also every teacher in finding their creative side. And I just love that, again, that you shared that resource, and shout out to Mikasita for their 5th year. Well,
Woo!
for Rafa's 5th year of being there as the education director. I think it's maybe Mikasita's 6th year.
Yeah, I think, yeah,
And for the Reggio approach to really start to have its place now, and that's such a beautiful thing. So,
it's taken a lot of tending and cultivating,
it
and
does.
it's every year gets richer and richer. So,
Yeah.
yay.
Yay.
And just to let everyone know, then in the show notes, you will see a link to a Google form that you can fill out if you want to connect with us. And as Pat mentioned, we also do consulting through Connecting the Dots. And so you can also reach out to us through that if you ever want to have that type of collaboration and relationship with us. You can also reach out to us very informally with any thoughts or questions you may
Yes.
have. Anything else you would add, Pat? Before we
No,
sign off?
except I realize we're matching today. We're both wearing blue, and
Oh yeah, blue, purple. My favorite color is indigo. What's your favorite
oh,
color?
I would say probably that is my favorite color as well.
I
Yeah.
just got goosebumps.
Oh my
I did not know this
gosh.
about you.
So much we still have to learn about one another,
Do I know how
and
to
we
make
invite you
indigo?
to keep
No.
learning with us. What'd you say? What did you
Do I
say?
know how to make indigo? Not confidently. I want to say it's purple and blue, but
Yeah, and see, now you're gonna get me on another tangent because 'cause I'm working with an atelierista right now who is thinking about how to show children how to make colors from things in nature, like with a thistle and
ooh.
mortar, which things you can mash, and so it's all fascinating to me. And but yeah, I don't know what makes indigo. But maybe that's what we should say at the next opening of our next
There you
section.
go. There you go. What makes indigo? That'll be the opening question.
Yeah.
And how did I figure that out?
Yes.
I'm gonna try to not use Google.
All right. I think that's great.
But then I wanna try to experience it,
Yeah.
unless someone
Yeah,
copies it or
I
something.
just don't have the things at my home, I don't think, to play with. I have quite a lot of art materials. Maybe I'll try it myself as well.
That's true.
Maybe we should challenge each other to figure out what makes indigo by the next time we meet. But this time, I think we should let everybody go because you and I could sit here for another several hours, but probably people don't have as much time. But I'm glad they gave us some of their time. That
Yes,
makes me
thanks
so
for
happy
joining
that
us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hope it was fun for you, and we'll continue to be vulnerable as we share what we know and what we don't know, and
Yeah,
what we wanna learn more about with
exactly.
you. All
Well,
right,
with
Rafa,
that,
I guess I'll see you soon.
I will see you soon, Pat. Until the
All
next
right.
time.
Yes.
Bye.